Welcome back to McNulty's Book Corral. As you can tell from the title of this episode and from that footage you just watched, this episode is about bear attack stories. Now, the footage, by the way, that you just watched is from my trail cam last summer. I'm going to be showing you more footage, and I'm going to show you some other photographs and so forth, but I thought it would be interesting to explain to you how I became interested in bear attack stories. So what sparked this episode was actually back in, I think it was November. I received my book club package from the William W. Johnstone book club, and Dark Night of the Mountain Man comes out with a bear attack cover and a bear attack story. Really great book, by the way. Really fun. So I'm really reveling in this, but I was reveling in it. It was so much fun. And of course it sets off memories. So nostalgia plays a role here, okay? So I thought it would be interesting. Like I said, I need to explain how did I become interested in such a specialty topic. This is not a major part of my collection. It's a side interest of mine, and I'll explain how it happened. So I read the book, and I thought that reminded me of, and let's go back in time. So this photograph that you're looking at here is taken in August of 1967. We're traveling back to the summer of love, and my father bought a new Pontiac Catalina and a Coachman trailer, and my mother, my sister, my father, and I, and a dog began traveling the country. And this photo of the Pontiac and the trailer was taken in the Badlands of South Dakota that August. And here's another photo of my mother and sister and I standing on a cliff. It was very windy, and I was pretending to be blown off the cliff. A little nostalgia I thought I'd throw in. So we go to Mount Rushmore. We go to Deadwood. We go to the Grand Teton National Park. And from there we made our way north to Yellowstone. And once we get to Yellowstone, I see bears in the wild for the first time. And I'm fascinated by this. It's amazing to me. It's like, wow, we're kids in the 60s. It's just cool. So this photo that's coming up now is a photo I took with a Polaroid camera. I rolled down the window on the Pontiac, and I took my first photo of a bear. There have been hundreds of photographs and videos since then, and you're going to see some. And this was a mistake rolling down the window, okay? So we had a dog in the car, and the dog is going berserk. The bear decided to come explore the car, which if you've been to Yellowstone, this still happens. So I had to roll up the window, and then my mother took the Polaroid away from me. I'm told, don't you open that window again. The bear came to the Pontiac and scratched it, which really upset my father. Brand new car, Pontiac Catalina. How would you like to have one of those today? And then within minutes, we're surrounded by bears, okay? So here I am, a very impressionable kid, and, loving it, okay? So I have these pictures of the bears. We have Super 8 film of all of this, too, by the way, and I have yet to transfer the Super 8 film to digital. I'll get to it. Someday. I have a lot of cool stuff on Super 8. I have John Kennedy on the campaign trail in 1960, footage that my mother took. Anyway, so bears, right? It's like, gosh, bears, it's amazing. Of course, during this period, there was Walt Disney was on TV with a TV show, and he did these nature documentaries, and there was one on bears. I forget the name of it. You can look that up. And so, everybody was interested in the ecology then. It was the swinging 60s, and we were coming of age. So let's, before we move forward, I wanted to mention that also here are some photos of some buffalo, bison, whichever you want to call them, that I also saw for the first time. And this animal, which I've seen many times since, this is a big one. This is a big creature. So here are the photos of my first view of bears in the wild and buffalo. I call them buffalo. Everyone else calls them bison. They're buffalo to me. And it was so much fun. So let's move ahead now to 1969, and we're still traveling. I'm skipping 68. Maybe someday I'll come back to that, because that was another interesting travel year. 1969, we're up in northern Wisconsin, in St. Germain, not far from where I actually have my summer home. And we're visiting my great aunt and my great uncle, Everett and Jenny. And Jenny has a collection of pulp magazines. Jenny would tell stories. They're in the St. Germain, they still have bears up there. They're all over the place. And Jenny would tell stories about baking apple pies. And then, they had a cabin called Timber Lane on the lake, on Little St. Germain. And when she was baking pies, the bears would show up, at the back door, at the screen door, looking in, because they could smell the pie. Excuse me, they could smell the pie. So a lot of fun stories in the family about bears. Jenny and Everett also were in Yellowstone in the 1920s, and we have photographs of them with bears. So anyways, not unusual for my family to be associated with bears. So let's get back to those pulp magazines that I mentioned. Jenny had a stack of pulp magazines, and each and every one of them was exclusively featuring bear attack covers or stories inside about bear attacks. And I was allowed to read them after a discussion, because these are adult magazines, as you'll see. And at the time, I was a pretty advanced reader. So we're looking at 69. I'm reading the Hardy Boys along with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes books. So I was reading Ian Fleming. I read everything. So anyways, I was allowed to read the magazines, and that was really an eye-opener. And that set in motion this very strange aspect of collecting: bear attack stories, predominantly in pulp magazines. And I'm going to show you a couple of them. So, and I'll have the scans come up. Here's a True West from April of 1960, and I'll have the scan come up so that you can see it. This is when True West was a really good magazine to read. It's not any longer. It's, but very interesting content in True West. Really fun magazine to read. And here there are actually two bear attack stories in here. Here's some scans of the illustrations and so forth coming up on this one. Really great issue of True West. I wish I had a better copy. Fun material all the way. Let's take a look at some others. Here is Cavalier. I'm sure some of you males in the audience have heard of this magazine. And what was this? This was Cavalier in May 57. This has a wonderful bear cover on it. Take a look at this. Isn't that great? There were some interesting material. There's interesting material in these magazines. Those Gator Gars Gave Me Religion was one of the stories in here. So a lot of the stories had to do with surviving animal attacks, bear attacks, and so forth. In these magazines, Shifta, Africa's Mystery Cult, and so forth. There was a Western story in here by Tom Bailey, 13 Had to Die, with a color painting illustration. Just wonderful. These magazines were great, with absolutely a stunning cover. Of course, the headline story is How a Sexy Gun Girl Led the FBI on a Merry Chase. So, hey, okay, this is a world long gone, okay? So, Cavalier. Let's take a look at True Adventures. True Adventures, September of 55, The Island of Lonely Girls. My wife bought this one for me. This is actually one of the magazines that Jenny had. My Aunt Jenny had. And I have a pretty good memory, and when you go back and you read them, you say, I remember that. The Case of the Married Virgins is one of the stories in here. And this is Pulp Fiction. Have you sentenced yourself to death? I watched myself die. Wow. The Day the River Ran Red. Great stuff, okay? Bear attack stories and surviving other animal encounters in these pulp magazines. So I still obviously collect the pulp bear attack stories. Some Western covers, if I can find them. I have. Truly fun. All right, how about True Adventures? I'm sorry, that was True Adventures. This is Outdoor Adventures from March of 57. which features 1900 Miles an Hour into the Unknown by Major Charles E. Yeager. Yes, really hard-boiled stuff. Underwater Adventures and so forth. Great cover, bear attack cover on this one. This goes on and on, And how about, let's end it with the hottest of the hot. Peril magazine from August of 58. Times Square, Sin City. I blew myself up. That seems to be a reoccurring theme. Why men cheat on their wives. Trapped by the bone-crushing red giant. Here's a scan of that one. Or I may have shown it already. The Bastard Smashed Me. Great. Peril. Now, these magazines also included delightful photos of models, which I think in a previous episode I may have shown you a glimpse of that in these pulp magazines. These pulp magazines were highly educational, and they included a wide variety of enticing and alluring young ladies who were complicit in everything we were doing back then. These magazines also had mail order educational materials popping up here. You can take a look at those. And I'm confident that I knew a lot of people that had this material. So the educational level of this is at a very high plateau, okay? And fun material to collect. I'm always promoting the old pulp magazines, even from the late 50s and 60s. This stuff was just so much fun to look at, quite clearly, as you can tell, and it was interesting. So since then, of course, I've been taking photographs of bears with trail cams or out in the wild. The one that opened up this episode was from last summer. Here's one also from last summer. And as you can see, that I'm surrounded by bears to this day. And I have 5 to 7 trail cams set up around my cabin in the summer. And last summer, about 1 o'clock in the morning, we heard a banging out there, and my neighbor had a barrel of corn, but it was sealed. But the bear knew what was in it, and the bear was out there at 1 o'clock in the morning on the shoreline, swatting the barrel around. So I went out onto the pier, which was probably not the wisest thing I've ever done. And I was flashing a flashlight in the bear's face, trying to scare it away. And the bear just looked at me like, "Okay, whatever, bud." Yeah. And then last summer was there was a lot of bears last summer. We had one come down our driveway. If you've seen pictures of the cabin there and everything, my brother-in-law looked out the bedroom window, and there's the bear next to my car. So my granddaughter last summer saw a bear in the afternoon, a baby. Here's, I'll show you some pictures. So anyways, I'm picking bear pictures up all the time. So we have, of course, bears, and bears. With that said, what else is roaming around out there? Bears and other critters. Well, we have deer going one way, and we have deer going the other way. We have coyotes, we have wolves. I haven't picked up the wolves on my cameras. The wolves are very, very canny. They know, that's a pack, and they know how to avoid things. The coyotes I pick up all the time. A bobcat, a fisher. Here's a fisher. Picture of a nice fisher out there at night, and so forth and so on. So this is actually a good sign. This is a sign that your forest is healthy, and that's what you want. You want a healthy forest, which is a lot of fun. Finally, I'm probably forgetting to mention this or that or all the other. But I want to end this episode with some additional footage of yet another bear. This is a grizzly bear. And we're going to go back to 2008, which is not that long ago. And I filmed a grizzly bear in the Tetons with the very first digital camera I owned. So the footage here is not the best. In fact, I had trouble converting it to the Mac, so I filmed it with my cell phone off the TV screen, the plasma. It came out okay. So again, not the best footage, but the reason this is interesting, or I hope you find it interesting, is because I filmed this grizzly bear swimming across the Snake River, which is really great. I felt like Marlon Perkins. And if you're watching this video and you don't know who Marlon Perkins is, I am really revealing my age, okay? So, anyways, I hope you enjoy this little glimpse into my very strange side collection of bear attack stories. By the way, there are anthologies of bear attack stories you can find on Amazon. Just Google bear attack, and you can buy them. Magazines still run stories about bear attacks. You know, Facebook is full of bear footage of people taking with their cell phones. Bears are endlessly fascinating. One last thing I should mention before we watch this grizzly footage. I am not a hunter. Now, I am a fisherman, and by the way, I've heard some of your comments. I do not, I catch and release, but I do not do so always gently. And there's people that are a little irritated with me that watched my last fishing video. Okay. Anyways, I'm not a hunter. I love the wildlife. I photograph the wildlife. I tracked this grizzly you're going to see with my camera. We tracked him first on the open plain, and then I saw him go into the brush. And I knew the area really well because I've been there multiple times. So we followed him, and I knew he was going to come out of the brush by the river. And that's exactly what you see happen. And then the grizzly swam across the river. I hope you enjoy this little footage, this strange little episode, and enjoy the footage. And until next time, stay well, stay happy, feed your brain. Find some bear attack stories to read.